Hello, hello, and we are live. Welcome back again to Monday Night Chassidut. Apologize for the slight delay today. Today is Monday, Dalet Cheshvan, and we are starting to learn about the revelation of Mashiach in chapter 29. So, as we talked about last week, we were talking about the Mashiach of the generation that awaits. To redeem the Jewish people. In this chapter, we're going to start talking about the time of Mashiach, when it's going to be redeemed, and the actual actions that will be happening. בפרק הקודם דובר על משיח שבדור ממתין ומצפה לגאול ישראל, ובפרק זה שאחריו ידבר אודות הזמן בו משיח מתגלה וגואל את ישראל, עם ישראל בפועל. והנה בהתגלות משיח כמה שנים. So there are different stages in the revelation of Mashiach. ובכללות אפשר למצוא בזה שלושה עניינים. And really there's three main points. בתחילה ישנו עניין רוחני. First, there's the spiritual idea. Mashiach מקבל שליחות אלוקית ומתגלה בו נשמעת בכוח Mashiach. So Mashiach will receive a godly, he will become God's messenger, so to speak, and receive and reveal within him the soul and the power of Mashiach. בהמשך לזה משיח מופיע עוד קודם את הגאולה ומבשר לישראל בדיבור אודות הגאולה הקרובה. Then Mashiach will appear even before the redemption, in actuality, and lets the Jewish people know about the redemption that is coming very soon. ובהמשך לזה, משיח אכן עושה פעולות ממשיות, עד שגואל ישראל בגאולה שמה. And then after he announces this, then there's the actions where Mashiach actually does literal actions, until he redeems the Jewish people, until he redeems the world. Right? ואולי אפשר להגדיר את זאת על דרך שלושת העניינים של מחשבה, דיבור ומעשה, and perhaps you can define this based on the three ideas of thought, speech, and action, right? התגלות נשמת משיח, שזהו בעיקר עניין של משיח לעצמו. So the revelation of Mashiach is mostly a thought, so to speak. It's something between Mashiach and himself. It's his revelation of the power of his soul. Is like thought. בשורת הגאולה, דיבור, the announcement of the redemption, which is the speech. וגאולת ישראל בפועל ממש, מעשה, and the actual redemption is the actions. והרמב"ם בהלכות מלך המשיח מתאר בעיקר את גלות המשיח במעשה. So the Rambam in his halachot of מלך המשיח focuses specifically on the deed. פעולתם של משיח להבאת הגאולה עד הגאולה בפועל, meaning what are the actions Mashiach is going to do to bring the redemption until the redemption itself. מדרשי חז"ל בכמה מקומות מתארים את התגלות משיח בדיבור. So in several places the sages describe the revelation of Mashiach through speech. בשורת הגאולה על ידי משיח. There will be an announcement of the redemption by Mashiach. ובמקומות אחרים, כולל בספרי קבלה ודברי הרבי, מדובר על השראה ושליחות אלוקית התגלות כוח משיח רוחני. And in different books of Kabbalah and in the holy books of the Rebbe, it talks about the godly messengership, so to speak, and the revelation of the power of Mashiach that is spiritual. And over the next three chapters in this book, we're going to talk about these three concepts. All right. So we start with the revelation of the reality as the Melech HaMashiach, the King Mashiach. כתב החתם סופר, ומיום שחרב בית המקדש, מיד נולד אחד הראוי בצדקתו להיות גואל. The Khatam Sofer writes, from the day that the temple was destroyed, immediately there was born one who was worthy with his righteousness to be the Redeemer. And when the time will come, Hashem will reveal himself to him and will send him to go redeem the people. And then will awaken upon him the spirit of Mashiach, that is the spirit of Mashiach that is worthy, right, to be the Redeemer. And when the time comes, it's going to happen. Are you joining the class? I posted it on the WhatsApp where I added you. Look at the. I didn't got it. I don't know why. Look at the WhatsApp. There's a YouTube link right there. I didn't find it. Sorry about that. This is some people need a personal message with the link. So I will do that so that all right. Back to it. So the idea, right, like we said, is that the Khatam Sofer says you're going to have the spirit of Mashiach. Just like it was in the first Redeemer, right, where God revealed himself to Moshe Rabbeinu. Similarly, will be in the final Redeemer. God is going to reveal himself to the Mashiach, and he's going to send him, and he's going to tell him to go redeem the Jewish people. Like with Moshe Rabbeinu in the burning bush. שמדברים אלו יכול להצטער מעמד ומשיח מקבל מסר ברור מאת השם שעליו לצאת לגאול ישראל. So from this, words of the Khatam Sofer, you could think that you could have the image that Mashiach is going to receive a clear message from God that he has to go and redeem the Jewish people. על דרך מעמד הסנה המתואר בתורה, similar to the case of Moshe Rabbeinu who stood by and heard Hashem tell him, go and redeem the Jewish people from Egypt. בו השם נגלה למשה מצווה עליו, לך ואשלחך, ויוצא את עמי בני ישראל מצרים, where God commands Moshe Rabbeinu directly, go and I shall send you, and you shall take out my land, my nation, the Jewish people, out of Egypt. ובכתבי האריז"ל מופיעים דברים דומים בסגנון קצת שונה. In the letters of the Arizal, we have the same things, but in a little bit of a different style. ובלשונו, Mashiach yeh adam tzaddik nolnad me'ish v'isha. Mashiach is going to be a righteous person who's born from a man and a woman. V'yigdal b'tzidkato, and he's going to grow in his righteousness. V'as tinatem neshama leneshama nimtzeh began Eden. He's going to be given a soul to the soul that is found in heaven. V'az yizkeh liot hagoel, and then he's going to merit to be the Redeemer. V'zeh al derech Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom, and this is the way of Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. כי היה ילוד אישה והגדיל מעט מעט. So he was a child, a woman, and he grew somewhat. ושם בסנה נשלם לגמרי. And when he saw the burning bush, that's when he was complete. על דרך זה, במקום נוסף, המשיח בעזרת הבורא, שיזכה לאותה נשמה והכיר בעצמו שהוא משיח, ולא הכירו בו אחרים. So, in a different source, which this is brought from Torah Shalom, that Mashiach, with God's help, is going to merit to the same soul. And he's going to recognize that he is Mashiach. And others are not going to recognize it. And then he's going to reveal, it's going to be revealed that he is Mashiach. And all the Jewish people are going to recognize him and gather around him. והנה האריזל בדבריו לא מזכיר התגלות אלוקית מפורשת. So the Arizal in his words doesn't mention literal godly revelation. אלא רק הכיר בעצמו שהוא המשיח. He only recognized about himself that he is Mashiach. That's what the Arizal says. שדברים האלו יכולים להצטער באופן קצת שונה במתואר, which is he recognized himself that he is Mashiach is very different than God telling Moshe Rabbeinu directly that he is Mashiach. שהמשיח מתחיל לחוש לעצמו דברים שלא חש בהם קודם. So Mashiach starts feeling himself things that he didn't feel before. תחושה של אחריות ושליחות להבאת הגאולה. He feels a responsibility and he's like a messenger that has to bring the redemption. והוא רואה את המציאות שסביבו כמציאות מוכנה ראויה לגאולה. And he sees the reality around him as a reality that is ready and worthy to be redeemed. הוא מוצא בעצמו את התעוזה והביטחון שאכן הוא אכן יכול זאת. And not just that, he finds in himself the strength and the ביטחון, the true faith and belief that he can in fact do this. ומתוך כל זה הוא מבין שתחושות אלה באות לו מכוחה של שליחות אלוקית המוטלת עליו. And from all of this he understands from these feelings that these feelings come from the power of Hashem making him a messenger and from the soul of Mashiach that is revealed within him. And then when he feels all these things, he sees this, he recognizes himself that he is Mashiach. And look at the listings of the Frierdiker Rebbe. Where he writes his discussion with his father, the Rebbe Rashab, about the revelation of Mashiach. שאלתי Im ken me'ayin yeda ki havai shalcho. If so, how is Mashiach going to know that Hashem sent him? והשיב, דמישהו ראו שהווי ישלח אותו, הוא יודע, ויכול לדע שהווי שלחו. So his father answered, one who is worthy to be Mashiach, to be sent, that Hashem should send him, he will know, and he can know, that Hashem sent him. It's lo en sfekot. There's no doubts by this person. And he already knows the words of Hashem. כמה פעמים התבוננתי בעניין של עקידת יצחק, דלכאורה הרי בכוח הידיעה שהקדוש ברוך הוא יאמר משהו נברא. So several times I looked at the idea of the Akedah, the tying up of Yitzchak, the bringing up of Yitzchak as if to be a sacrifice. Seemingly, it's enough to know that God says something to a created being. כיצד ישנה שייכות שיהיו מניעות? בכוח הידיעה לא שייך כלל שום מניעה ועיכוב. If we're talking about knowing, the idea of knowing, there's no idea of delay or something stopping you if you know something to be true. אלא האמת אכן כך שאין שום מניעות ועיכוב כזה דבר, אלא שנופלים מחשבות וספקות בעצם העניין האם זאת ציווי מהוויה. So it's not that you have something stopping you, but no, what happens is you have thoughts and doubts in the whole thing. Is this actually a command from Hashem? Right? That's the case is not that you have something stopping you, no. והסיבה לזה הוא מה שאין יודעים אם זה ציווי, לפי שאין שייכים למדרגה זו. The reason for this is you don't know, is this a real commandment? Because you might not belong to that level. אבל באברהם לא היה שום ספקות. Avram didn't have any doubts, because וידע היטב שציווי השם. He knew this is a commandment of Hashem. להיות שמצד עצם מדרגתו היה בערך לידיו להבין מה אמרתי בבית, because Avram was in a level where he could understand and know the words of Hashem and his commands. כמו כן, לפי דברי הרמב"ם, שמשיח יהיה צדיק גדול. Similarly, as the Rambam says, Mashiach is going to be a very great tzaddik. הרי הוא לא יטעה בכלל. He's not going to make a mistake at all. וידע מה שיצוו לו. He knows what is going to be commanded to him. ולא יהיה אצלו שום ספקות בזה. He's not going to have any doubts. כיוון מי שהוא ראוי להיות משיח, הוא יודע ויכול להבין מהו ציווי מאמר הוויה. Because someone who's worthy to be Mashiach, he knows and he can understand what is the commandment and what does Hashem want, basically. Liyato sheyach elyan, because this relates to him. וכמו אברהם שמצד מדרגתו היה לו שייכות עניינים אלו וכו'. Similar to Avraham Avinu, who had the idea of relationship to these ideals. הנה גם האריזל וגם החתם סופר בדברי מתארים את רוחו של משיח כעניין בפני עצמו. So both the Arizal and the Chatam Sofer in their words describe the spirit of Mashiach as an idea in its own. There's a spirit of Mashiach and then there's the righteous person. These are two different concepts, so to speak. They're both described. שבהגיע הזמן הגאולה, אותו צדיק מקבל את כוחות Mashiach v'naaseh Mashiach. So they both explain that in the time of the redemption, this righteous person receives the power and the soul of Mashiach, and he becomes the Mashiach and the Redeemer. אף על פי המבואר בפרק קודם בהסתכלות פנימית יותר בסגנון תורת החסדות, מובן שכוח בחינת משיח נמצא במשיח מלכתחילה. As we talked about in previous chapters, when you look deeper through the Torah Chassidut, we understand that this power and this idea of Mashiach is already found in Mashiach from the beginning. It's not only in the end that this spirit of Mashiach comes, but it's always from the beginning. וכנ"ל בתורתו של הרבי משיח שבדור אינו מוגדר כראוי להיות משיח בעתיד, אלא כמציאותו של משיח. And in fact, the Rebbe, the Mashiach generation, when he speaks about Mashiach in the generation, he doesn't define it as worthy to be Mashiach. No, he says the reality of Mashiach that exists today. ולכן בתורתו של הרבי, השלב בו משיח מקבל את השליחות ויוצא לדרכו לגאול את ישראל, אינו מוגדר כשלב בו נעשה משיח. So the stage in which Mashiach receives the shlichut, the messenger, becoming Hashem's messenger, and goes out to redeem the Jewish people, אינו מוגדר כשלב בו נעשה למשיח. This is not defined as one of the stages when he becomes Mashiach. It's not saying that, and when he gets the message from Hashem that he needs to go redeem, then he becomes Mashiach. No. It's a stage to to the beginning, where there is revealed the power of Mashiach that is hidden within him. So the power is already there even before, but it's just revealed at that moment. וכדי להעביר את הדברים ולהגיד אותם נכונה, הרבי מדייק דבריו ומחלק את התגלות של משיח לשלמים. To really explain this and define them correctly, the Rebbe is very exact in his words, and he divides the revelation of Mashiach to two stages. שלב ראשון ופנימי נפשי בעיקר. The first stage, the Rebbe says, is mostly internal soul level. ועל דרך דברי החתם סופר והאריזל, שובו לעיל, which is similar to what the חתם סופר and the Arizal brought before. שהרבי קורא לו התגלות מציאותו בתוך מלך המשיח. So there's a revelation of his reality as the מלך המשיח. היינו שאותו משיח שהיה עמנו תמיד, אך לא זיהינו אותו בתור מלך המשיח, כעת הוא מתגלה בתור מלך המשיח, ההולך לגאול את ישראל בפועל. So this, what does it mean? The same Mashiach that was always with us, but we didn't recognize that he is the Melech HaMashiach. Now he can reveal himself like the Melech HaMashiach, and he's going to go redeem the Jewish people in actuality. ובשלב זה אנו עוסקים בפרק זה. So this is what we're dealing with in this chapter, actually. This chapter is focusing on that part. בשלב שני, החיצוני ומעשי, but the more external and applicable part, so to speak, the action, שבו משיח פעולה פעולות גלויות לגאול את ישראל פה ממש. In the second part, it's not just that we can recognize Mashiach, that the Mashiach spiritually is revealed. No, it's Mashiach goes and he does the actions to redeem the Jewish people in actuality. שלשלב זה קורא הרבי התגלות לענייני כל על ידי פעולותיו. So this is how Mashiach gets revealed to everyone through his actions. ובלשון קודשו בדבר מלכות של בת פרשת תולדות תשנ"ב, and in his holy words in פרשת in Shabbat פרשת תולדות תשנ"ב, אור של משיח מורה על ההתגלות במשיח על ידי פעולותיו. The light of Mashiach teaches about the revelation of Mashiach through his action. כמו ילחם מלחמות השם עד שינצח, like fighting the wars of Hashem until he wins, etc. כותב בזה. מה שאין כן אוויר של משיח מורה על העצם המשיח, but the air, so to speak, of Mashiach teaches about the essence of Mashiach. כלומר, התגלות מציאותו, מציאות שקיימת גם לפני זה למלכות בתור מלך המשיח. So the revelation, when you talk about the air of Mashiach, so to speak, the essence of Mashiach, the revelation of his reality, which is a reality that exists even before that of the kingship, as מלך המשיח, ואחרי התגלות ממציאותו, מתחילה התגלות לעיני כל עדי פלוטו. So once he reveals himself, his reality, then starts the revelation of all his actions. וכנ"ל הרמב"ם בדרכו מדבר בעיקר על שלב החיצוני הנגלה. And again, when we're talking about the Rambam in his way, he generally only describes the external, revealed stage. כאשר משיח פועל פעולותיו לעניין כל, meaning the Rambam focuses on what is Mashiach going to do, what are the things that are going to be visible. וכפי שהרבי מצטט בקשר זה דברי הרמב"ם ובמשיח, and the Rebbe quotes the Rambam often about this. שילחם מלחמות השם עד שנצח. He's going to fight the wars of Hashem until he wins. שזהו תיאור הרמב"ם לחזקת משיח ומשיח ודאי. And this is the definition of Rambam for חזקת משיח and Mashiach, most likely Mashiach and Mashiach for sure. וכאן בפרק זה נתמקד בביאור השלב הראשון של גאולת משיח. So here we're going to focus on the first stage. We're not going to talk too much about the actions Mashiach is going to take. That's the next chapter. This one is more about the revelation of the soul of Mashiach and the revelation of the reality of Mashiach as the Melech HaMashiach. That's the focus of this chapter. התגלות מציאותו בתוך מלך משיח כמובן. התגלות מלכות שלמה ושאול. So now we're going to talk about the revelation of the kingship of King Shlomo and Shaul, two different kings. ולתוספת הבנת דברים, מה המשמעותה של אותה התגלות מציאותו אמורה לעיל? What does it mean, the revelation of his reality? Or like, what does that mean? יש להביא דוגמה מעניין קרוב. Let's bring an example. אולי אפילו זה אותו עניין ממש. והוא ברורו של הרב בנוגע להכרתו של שלמה בן דוד למלך על ישראל, שהייתה בכמה שלבים. And the Rebbe describes the recognition of Shlomo, King Solomon, the son of David למלך על ישראל, to the king upon the Jewish people, שהייתה בכמה שלבים. There were several stages on this. שלמה היה ראוי למלוכה מאז לידתו. שלמה המלך was deserving of kingship from his birth. וכמבואר בפרקים הקודמים שדוד המלך הוריש לזרוע אחריו את כתר מלכות. As we talked about previously in previous chapters, David המלך gave as an inheritance to all his descendants this crown of kingship, which is a special power in the soul of kingship and elevation that will run through his descendants. It's a power of kingship and higher elevation internally in the soul. And this exists by every kosher seed of the line of House of David from the moment of their birth. Including Shlomo. ומלבד זאת הייתה מעלה מיוחדת שלמה שעוד קודם שנולד היה לדוד אביו נבואה מאת השם שבן ייוולד לו שישב על כיסא ממלכתו. Even more so, Shlomo Melech was extra special because even before he was born, his father David Melech had a prophecy from Hashem that a son will be born to him who will sit on his on his throne. וכאשר נולד נשבע דוד לבת שבע עם שלמה שכך אכן יהיה. And when Shlomo Melech was born, not just that, David took an oath to Bathsheba that he's gonna be the king. And from all the sons of King David, he had many. Shlomo is the one who's going to sit upon the throne after him. But until the time where it was his time to be a king, he was just a regular person like everyone, and he wasn't elevated, acting as someone who's greater than them. So he certainly, the part of the elevation in Shlomo Melech's soul was still not revealed. It was still in a concealed way. And when the king David got old, one of his older sons, Adoniah, the son of Chagit, decided to say, I'm going to rule. I'm a big guy. I'm a popular guy. I'm going to rule after my father. And then Bathsheba, the mother of Shlomo, comes to King David to remind him his oath. And what does King David? This is my haftarah for my bar mitzvah parsha, so I get to read this, the haftarah of Chayei Sarah every year. David HaMelech on that same day decreed that they shall anoint Shlomo to the king and announce before him, long live the king Shlomo. However, on a practical note, King David remained the king, even though they already crowned King Shlomo as the future king. Only after King David passed, only after did Shlomo Melech sit on the throne of his father and led the kingdom. And the Rebbe deals about what is the idea of crowning Shlomo HaMelech during the time of the life of David, right? Because David HaMelech was still alive. He lived for several years after this case. What happened in this crowning of Shlomo HaMelech? This is in the Likutei Sichot, Parsha Chayei Sarah. אף על פי שזכה שלמה בכתר מלכות תכף משנולד להיותו זרע כשר והיה לו כוח המלוכה בעצם. מכל מקום, כל זמן שדוד היה בחיים הוא מלך בפועל, הרי כוח המלכות של שלמה הוא רק בכוח ולא בפועל. It says, even though Shlomo HaMelech merited the crown of kingship immediately from birth, being that he was a kosher seed of King David, and he had the power of kingship in any case, as long as David HaMelech was alive, and he was the king in actuality, the power of kingship in Shlomo is only in Bekoach. He had the strength of it, in potential, but not in actuality, right? It was a potential that he had within him. Because he didn't need to be the king at that time. David HaMelech was the king. Even more so. It's not necessarily that it was unique by Shlomo HaMelech, because he had several brothers, and it was not clear that he would be the king. There's no certainty that Shlomo HaMelech will be the king. אלא גם אם היה מדובר בבן יחיד, הרי אפשר שימות בן בחייו ולעולם לא ימלוך בפועל. Even more so, even if there was only a single son, it's possible, God forbid, that the son passes away during the life of the father, and he'll never be the king. אבל על ידי בחירת דוד בשלמה בנו וציוויו ולמשכו חל על ידי זה על שלמה שם מלך. However, by David HaMelech choosing Shlomo and anointing him, by that moment, it already started, the name of kingship started belonging to Shlomo HaMelech. Not just that he's gonna inherit the kingship from David, but he's already a melech, a king. Why? Because he merited the crown of kingship. The physical rulership in of the kingdom was still only through David HaMelech. However, from the moment that Shlomo HaMelech was anointed, the name of king already was appropriate for Shlomo in the life of King David, because he had the crown of kingship. So from this we can learn about the kingship of Shlomo HaMelech. There were 3 stages. Aleph, koach hamelucha be'etzem, the potential, the power of the kingship in your essence, the power of the kingship in the essence, which Shlomo HaMelech had as soon as he was born. This was concealed and only in a potential, but not in actuality. This is why no one called Shlomo HaMelech the baby as a king. No one called baby Shlomo HaMelech Shlomo. And even it's not certain that he's going to really rule. Perhaps he could pass away before he can rule. Bet, the second part. Shem Melech shechal al Shlomo kasher nimshach al yedei aviv. The name king that became appropriate for Shlomo Melech when he was anointed by his father. Shenaseh v'nikra melech kedavar b'oveh. He now is a king. וכמסופר בדוד שבאותו מעמד הכריזו בפניו יחי המלך שלמה. To the point where in that time they announced, long live the king Shlomo. והרכיבו אותו על פרידת המלך, and they had him ride on the horse of the king. והושיבו אותו על כיסא המלך, and they let him sit on the throne. וכל זה על פי ציווייו המפורש של דוד עצמו. This is all based on the commands of David HaMelech himself. והרי עד עתה אם אדם היה קורא לו המלך שלמה, או אם היה שלמה רוכב על פרדת המלך ויושב על כיסאו, היה זה נחשב כמרידה במלכות. Until this moment, when David HaMelech said this, had Shlomo HaMelech ridden the horse of the king or sat on the throne, it would have been considered like a rebellion against the kingship. Only the king is allowed to sit on the throne. Only the king is allowed to ride the king's horse. Because only David is the king and not Shlomo. אך כעת, לאחר שנמשך שלמה וחל עליו שם מלך, אפשר וצריך להכריז בפניו יחי המלך. So now that Shlomo has the name king, now it is appropriate to announce before him, long live the king, יחי המלך. כיוון שהוא אכן כבר מלך בבל. Why? Because he's already a king. אך בדבריו בהמשך השיחה מובן שבשלב זה עדיין לא חלו עליו כל דיני המלך. However, the Rebbe explains in the שיחה, certainly not all the rules of a king applied to Shlomo HaMelech. כיוון שהם חלים בעיקר במצב בו המלך מנהיג את המלוכה בפועל. Because as much as he was a king and he could do all this, he wasn't ruling the kingdom yet. ולכן אדוניה לא נהרג אז, אף שנחשב כבורד במלכות שלמה. This is why Adoniah was not killed, even though he was considered like a rebellion against the kingship of Shlomo. But he wasn't killed because it wasn't an actual rebellion because Shlomo HaMelech wasn't ruling yet. Gimel, the third level. Hanagat HaMelucha B'Po'al, the actual kingship. שאותה נטל שלמה רק אחרי אריכות ימי דוד אביו. Shlomo HaMelech only took the kingship after the long life of his father. כאשר דוד שכב עם אבותיו, ושלמה החל להנהיג את המלכות עצמו. When David returned to his forefathers, and Shlomo HaMelech started leading the kingdom itself. ואז חל עליו כל דיני המלך וכל דבר. And then he was a king completely, for every kind of circumstance. ובאופן פנימי יותר, in a more inner way, בסגנון ההסברה של תורת החסידות, אנחנו מוצאים אותם 3 שלבים, דרגות בהתגלות כוח המלכות. בדבריו של אדמו"ר הרש"ב נפשו עדן. So if we go deeper, if we want a Hasidic explanation, we find the same 3 kind of stages in the revelation of the power of kingship in the words of the Rebbe Rashab. Aleph, koach hamelucha shebe'etzem hanefesh. The first one is the power of kingship that is within the essence of the soul. Shekoach ze eino sheyach l'shum gilu klal. This has no this power, this potential doesn't. There's no connection to revelation in this. עד שאינו גם בבחינת מקור ומקור המלוכה מאחר שאינו בגדר גילוי כלל. והראייה שיוכל להיות שלא יבוא לידי גילוי עולם. This power, this potential, doesn't have to be revealed to the point where it may never be revealed. It could be a case that it will never be revealed. That, as there are plenty of potential mashiachs or potential kings who were not, on a practical level, ever merited to redeem the Jewish people. Bet. The second level is when you crown the king with the crown of kingship. As soon as he was crowned with the crown of kingship, he is called a king. The fact that the crowning, so that he accepts upon himself the crown of kingship, it means that in his essence, there is awakened is in his essence a desire for the kingdom, for kingship. והתעוררות זו אף שהוא בהלם נפשו ברצון כללי על קלות עניין המלוכה מכל מקום הרי מקום למקום משם נמשך ההשתררות והממשלה והתנסות על העם ממש. So it's a desire upon kingship, this awakening, even though it's in a concealed part of your soul, is a general idea about the kingship. And in any case, it's a place that you can continue in the rulership and an elevation upon the nation, literally. והתגלו כל הרצונות פרטיים שייכים לעניין מלוכה בפרט בהנהגה ממש בחוקים בענייני מדינה וכולי. And at that point you have actual details that are related to kingship, including how to behave, etc., laws and other things about the kingship. ולכן מיד שנכתר בכתר, היינו שנתעורר ברצון הכללי על עניין המלוכה, הרי הוא מיד מלך משתרר מושל. So the moment that he is crowned with a crown, and he already has the desire, so to speak, the general desire about kingship, he's already a king that could rule. Because it's for sure going to happen. It's already revealed in his soul, and it's just going to happen in the future. And certainly the third one, the actual rulership, the actual being a king. So this is a revelation of the attribute of kingship in the spreading out of his greatness upon the kingdom. And everyone nullifies himself before him, and he is their leader with by his desire, with everything to do with both in the inner way and in the external. The Rebbe Rashav actually brings Shaul HaMelech, the first Jewish king. שלאחר שנמשך למלך על ידי שמואל, חזר לביתו בגבעה שאול לחרוש שדות, כאילו לא היה דבר. What did Shaul HaMelech do? He is anointed by Shmuel HaNavi as the king. He goes back home to Givat Shaul to go plow the fields like nothing happened. כעבור זמן מה הגיעה שמועה שניחש נחש בני עמון עלה להילחם בתושבי יבש גלעד. But after a while there was a rumor that Nachash, the king of the sons of Ammon, went to fight in the people who live in Yavesh Gilad. Shema Shaul v'charapo. Then Shaul heard and he got angry about this. ולקח בקר וניתח אותו ל12 דחים. And he took a lamb and he divided it into 12 pieces. ושלח בכל שבטי ישראל להודיע שמי שלא יצא אחרי שאול למלחמה כן יעשה להם קרון. He said to every one of the 12 tribes to tell anyone who doesn't go follow Shaul to war, this is what's going to happen to his flock. ואז יצאו אחריו מאות אלפים מישראל, and tens of thousands of Israelites followed him. והיכה את בני עמון והושיע את יבש גלעד. And he attacked the sons of Ammon, and he says he saved the people who live in Yavesh Gilad. ומאז אותו מעשה והלך כבר לא שב לשאול אל השדות. After this action, Shaul never returned back to his fields to plow the field. אלא הנהיג מלוכה פה. He was a king in actuality now, a ruling king that is ruling the kingdom. הוא מבאר שם שבשעת המשיכה על ידי שמואל הייתה בנפש שאול המשכת נעלמת על עניין מלוכה. When he was anointed by Shmuel, in the soul of Shaul, there was a continuation that was concealed about the idea of kingship. והחלטה פנימית, and an inner decision, שסוף כל סוף הוא יצטרך להנהיג את ישראל ולהושיע אותם מכל צריהם. At the end he's going to have to lead the Jewish people and save them from all their trouble, all the problems. והמאורע עם בני עמון, this action that happened with the sons of Ammon, with the people of Ammon, היה רק הזדמנות לעורר את אותם שכחה נעלמת ולהוציאה לגלוי. What was this? This was just an opportunity to awaken the same continuation that was concealed and reveal it. לכן כשכל ישראל שמעו על צרת יושבי גלעד ובכו, שאול היחיד שנקט יוזמה והוציא את המלחמה. This is why where all the Jewish people, all the Israelites heard about the trouble of those who are in Gilad and were crying. Shaul was the only one who took the initiative and brought the nation to war. Because he knew the obligation was already upon him. Meaning, even as soon as he was anointed, even though he went back to the fields after, he was already considered a king. The Rebbe Rashab explains all this about the kingship of Shaul. אך קל להבין ולראות כיצד דברים אלו תואמים על בירו של הרב בנוגע למלכות שלמה ומוסיפים בו הבנה ועומק. We can see how the words of the Rebbe Rashab about the kingship of Shaul can fit and also add upon the words of the Rebbe when we're talking about the kingship of Shlomo HaMelech, and they add depth and understanding. כי זה שכתר מלכות הקיים אצל שלמה הוא רק בכוח ולא בפועל, כי אין הכרח שימלוך בפועל. So the fact that the crown of kingship that existed by Shlomo Melech is only in potential, but not in actuality, because he doesn't have to rule in actuality because his father is still alive. It's not just because of a technical external reason. Or potentially, the only reason he's not ruling is because it's potentially he could pass away before his father, and thus he wouldn't be able to have a rule. Right? He could pass away during his father's life and have a rule. But the most important part is the essence of the idea. So this crown of kingship that is within the essence of the soul, there's no idea of revelation by this. This is something that's concealed. Because this is a concealed potential, it's possible the potential will never get revealed. And when he was anointed and Shlomo was now called a king, the name of the king, this is not just an external thing, that now people started calling him Shlomo HaMelech, and they treated him like a king. They placed him, they let him sit on the throne. This is an inner part. So when he was crowned, his essence was awoken a desire upon the kingship. Because he has this attribute of kingship that is found in the essence of his soul, and he started already bringing it down to this world, even though it's concealed about the idea of kingship. So as soon as he was anointed, he was already ready to be king fully in every way. So this awakening within him is a source for the source that from it is going to be continued the rulership in the kingdom. With leadership literally including making laws about the state, about the kingdom. The fact that he didn't make new laws is because of an external reason. What's the external reason? There was no need yet. David HaMelech was there and he could rule himself. But as soon as David HaMelech passed away, that same day Shlomo HaMelech took over the kingship and started ruling. וככל החיזיון הזה אפשר להבין בבניין המשיח. So everything we just talked, let's apply this to our, what are we talking about? We're not talking about David HaMelech and Shlomo and Shaul, very interesting stories from Tanakh and important figures, but we were talking about Melech HaMashiach, so let's take it back to our point. כי בכל דור ודור ישנו משיח שבכל דור מזרע דוד. So as we said, every generation there's a Mashiach of that generation from the house of David, seed of David. שיש בו את כתר מלכות של דוד. What does he have? He have the crown of kingship of David HaMelech. עצם מידת המלוכה נטוע משורש בעצם הנפש. So what is this? This is the essence that we talked about. The essence of the kingship that is seated and its roots are in the essence of the soul of every descendant of David HaMelech. King David, through Shlomo HaMelech, passed down this kingship within the soul, right? This elevation, this attribute. But this is deep and concealed in the depth of his soul. There's no, it might forever stay just concealed in your soul. Because why? Because it's possible that that particular generation will not merit to be redeemed. Then comes the time of the revelation of his reality as the Melech HaMashiach. This is mostly a spiritual revelation. Mashiach himself feels now a responsibility and as if he's being sent to bring the redemption to the whole world. בדוגמת שאול, שויחר אפו והחליט שלב להושיע את ישראל. What Shaul, who suddenly got angry and realized he has to go save the Jewish people from their enemies. An enemy king has encroached upon the land of Israel, and Shaul felt that he needs to go save them. וכבר בשלב זה אז היה משיח שמו לקרוא. So in that state, already Mashiach is his name. כיוון שהתעוררות זו תביא בהכרח להמשך הנהגה בפועל של ישראל, because this awakening is going to for sure bring the behavior in actuality upon the Jewish people. ותיקון עולם במלכות שקאי, ולכאורה מובן שכבר בשלב זה אפשר להכתיר אותו בתור מלך משיח. So you can see that this awakening, the fact that Mashiach, so to speak, awoke and already is ready to defend the Jewish people and to redeem them, means that you can already call him in that state, not in the name Melech HaMashiach, the King Mashiach. ולהכריז בפניו יחי המלך, and to announce before him, long live the king. בדוגמת המבואר לגבי שלמה שכבר בעת ההכתרה החל עליו שם מלך, similarly to Shlomo HaMelech, that as soon, even though David HaMelech was still alive, as soon as he was crowned, already he has the name king. ולאחר מכן בא התגלותו לעיין כל על ידי פעולותיו, and only afterwards came the revelation for everyone to see through his actions. שאכן מנהיג את ישראל בפועל עד שמביא להם גאולה שלמה. What does he do? He leads the Jewish people until he redeems them, complete redemption. החל במצב של חזקת משיח ועד למצב של משיח ודאי, starting from he's the most likely Mashiach until we reach the state of Mashiach ודאי, for sure Mashiach. שאז חלים עליו דיני מלך ודיני משיח בממלכתי. When he is for sure Mashiach, then he now all the laws of a king and the laws of Mashiach now apply to him in the halachic sense. This state is a result that is requested and has to happen because of the previous state, right? Once Shlomo HaMelech was already anointed as king, then he would be king. He's not yet the ruler, but he will be because of the anointment. Similarly, the idea of Mashiach. This is right. So this is exactly what it said. When we're talking about Shaul and Shlomo, when awakened within them the desire of kingship, and they started to have the name king. This is going to for sure be revealed. And in the same Sicha of Parshat Toldot Tafshin Bet, the Rebbe says, Ikar HaChidush Shel Biat HaMashiach Hu B'Itgalut Mitziuto. The main novelty of the coming Mashiach is the revelation of his reality. כי כל פרטי העניינים של אחרי זה, all of the details afterwards, התגלותו לעין, כל על ידי פעולותיו, לגאול את ישראל, וכל מיני מדהימות המשיח. What does the things come after? The revelation for everyone, through his action to redeem the Jewish people, and all the other ideas of the days of Mashiach. באים כתוצאה והסתעפות מתגלותו, מציאותו בכלולים בה. This all comes from as a result of the revelation of his reality, and are included in it. זאת ועוד, שנדקדק בדברי הרבי לעיל אודות התגלות משיח, נראה שההתגלות הבית אומר שהתגלות לעין כל על ידי פעולותיו. When we look at the words of the Rebbe about the revelation of Mashiach, we can see that about the revelation, he says that it's a revelation for everyone, l'ayin kol, that every eye can see his actions. From what we learn from this rule, we're going to hear what is not, right? So from the revelation, it's going to be you hear what is not. What does it mean? Because the Rebbe says the revelation of Mashiach through his action will be for every eye. It means the first revelation, the revelation of his reality as the Melech HaMashiach, is not le'ein kol. Not every eye is going to see. Not everyone's going to recognize this. And we can understand simply, the actions of Mashiach everyone can see. כפי שמובן גם מדברי הרמב"ם, שכאשר ישנם פעולות של משיח, אז הכל רואים אחרים, שזהו בחזקת משיח בוודאי. When Mashiach starts to do the actions of Mashiach, then everyone can see and recognize this is most likely Mashiach, and then Mashiach for sure. התגלות מציאותו הגרה וגילוי רוחני נפשי של נשמת משיח בינו לבין עצמו. As we said, the revelation of his reality is mostly a spiritual soul revelation of the soul of Mashiach between him and himself. There's no proof in the world itself, in the reality of the world. This is why, since the proof does not exist in this physical world, it doesn't obligate everyone to recognize this. This is, by the way, we can apply it based on what happened with Shlomo HaMelech. When he was crowned, it was only a small group of the people in Yerushalayim who were there, who announced, "Long live the king." Only afterwards, when he became the king in actuality, then his kingship spread to the whole Jewish people. And then he was crowned again, but this time for the whole nation. And this was also by Shaul. At the time of his kingship, of his crowning, it says, and the soldiers that went with him, the soldiers who God touched their heart, and many of the other people of the nation completely ignored this whole thing. But only when he led the kingdom in actuality and won the war, then the whole nation acknowledges kingship, and they crowned him a second time. And we should say about this when we talk about the Melech HaMashiach. When we talk about the revelation of the Melech HaMashiach as the Melech HaMashiach. This is not a revelation for every Jew, of every Israelite. Only to the soldiers, so to speak, that God touched their heart. And they have a recognition and a special internal connection with the king. However, when the Melech HaMashiach will win the wars, build the Beit HaMikdash, then everyone in the world will recognize that he is the Melech HaMashiach because he did these actions that are specific and unique to the Melech HaMashiach. So, we're going to stop here because we've reached the next section, which is the revelation of Mashiach in our generation. And it's a beefy, nice, long section that will finish this chapter. God willing, we will continue next week. I will try to start on time at 8 o'clock next week, Bli Neder. And I wish everyone a wonderful week, a week of Geula. And may we merit to continue learning about the revelation of Mashiach, for Mashiach himself has revealed himself by starting to do the physical and open actions of redeeming the Jewish people. May we merit to see our King speedily, Melech, and all the best. All right. Shkach. All right. Thank you for coming. You're the only